Yeah, bro. And we're back on Crossing the Axis, the biz side of video production. I'm Max Kaiser, the CEO of Pipeline Video Production Software. We make software to help you do your budgeting, do your project management, and generally just get your act together to be successful in video production. I'm joined with my partner, Jake Rorda.
Hey, I'm Jake, Operations and Customer Success at Pipeline.
So we're joined today in the studio by Ryan Koral of Studio Sherpas. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for having me. This is super fun.
Yeah. I mean, if you haven't checked out his stuff at studiosherpas.com, there couldn't be anything more sort of symbiotic with what we're doing and trying to encourage folks to do in terms of growing your video production business. Ryan does a podcast with over 450,000 downloads, and it is a fabulous podcast. He's done it for 5 years. It covers all the aspects of how to grow and scale your business. He talks to entrepreneurs. He talks to successful video production people. He talks to all different types of folks. It's an incredible podcast. And we thought it would be great to have him on the show and sort of talk about maybe the sort of top things that you might want to be doing to try to go to that next level, and also to sort of introduce you to the idea of his podcast, his workshops, and so forth. But there's no one that knows it better. Ryan, welcome to the show. Can you give us a little background about how you got started in all this stuff?
Well, I started my own video production business. I was working at a small Christian college here near Detroit, Michigan, and I was hosting a lot of events and doing lots of marketing type stuff for the college. And I really had fallen in love with video. This is back in the early 2000s. I'm not sure either one of you were born yet. Just kidding. But I had somehow convinced the college to buy me a video camera and a computer. And this was when Apple, they started using FireWire 400 cables that could connect to your video camera and your computer. And you could pull the files from your video camera directly onto your computer and edit them. And that was super cool. And I just fell in love with shooting and editing and creating little promo pieces for the college and all of the fun stuff that we were doing there. And eventually I could not get this thing out of my head. Like, how do I just do video full time? I'm doing all this other marketing stuff, but I really just want to do video. And my wife and I we were in a spot. We were brand newly married. We had like no debt. And it was just like it seemed like a pretty small risk. Like, hey, let me just try this and see if I can make it into a business. And that was 17 years ago. Today, it's not just me in the studio. I've got a couple of filmmakers. I've got an operations person. We've got a project manager. We work with a number of different virtual assistants and lots of other contractors, shooters, editors, copywriters, marketers, you name it. I've got a consultant. I've got my own coach. We've kind of been through a lot of stuff over 17 years. We have this cool production space in the Metro Detroit area. It's about 5,800 square feet. We've got a psych wall and, just all the fun stuff that I think 17 years ago, I never would have dreamed of having, like my own studio and, offices and a conference, just like, what do you need a conference room for? Yeah. But as we've kind of evolved and had bigger dreams and visions for what we want to be and who we want to work with and the kind of stuff that we want to be doing, it just made sense to, be where we're at today. So super grateful, super thankful to have been able to, we've done lots of cool projects over the years, and I'm just really thankful to today still be running the production company. But, 5 years ago, started this thing called Studio Sherpas. I've always loved the business side of what we do. I love the creative aspect and creating stuff and creating emotions for the people that, watch the work that we do. But really figuring out how to get people to hire us and how to get people to pay us more money. And that kind of stuff has been pretty fascinating. And then also like how to get out of the day-to-day parts of the work, like the hiring and firing, accounting, taxes, just all the daily grind stuff I was not crazy about. And so I've really just tried to figure out how can I do that? And then 5 years ago, creating Studio Sherpas as a place and a resource for other videographers that have the same kind of vision. They don't want to be the only one in the business, or they don't want to do all of the parts of the job, or they want to make more money, or they want to be more profitable. And that's really what Studio Sherpas is a place where I share, the mistakes that I've made over 17 years and a lot of the stuff that I've learned that actually has worked over the course of 17 years in our business.
So when people come to Studio Sherpas and they're checking you out and they're like, God damn, I need some help here. What's the big thing? What do you often see that they're just like, this is the thing that I'm struggling with, and I'm having trouble getting past it?
Well, I try to ask everybody that kind of comes into our ecosystem, like, what are you frustrated with? What are you struggling with in your business? And most people say that they want more clients. Yep. They're not crazy about the kind of work that they're doing. So they want more clients, they want better clients, and they want better work. And so, part of that is like, okay, well, charge more. That's like a easy, solution. Right. I would say that most of us don't value our skill set, Yep. And we just buy into this lie that you're not at the spot where you want to be. You don't have the kind of gear that you really want. You don't have a 5,800 square foot studio yet. So you really shouldn't be charging as much as that guy. And I think that's a bunch of malarkey, and kind of overcoming that mindset, because really at the end of the day, it's like, well, what is the value that you are bringing to your clients or your potential clients? And what is that video going to do? How is that going to help them? And if it's going to help save them time, or if it's going to help make them money, or if it's going to become a treasured heirloom for their family, it's hard to put a price tag on some of those things. Right. So when you start thinking like that, it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe it is worth a little bit more than what I'm charging. In a lot of cases, it's actually worth a lot more. But I would say for me, there's just a lot of people that get into this work because it kind of fell into their lap. They shot a friend's wedding because they had a cool camera, and then they're like, oh, I could actually do this. Or, they work in corporate America and they needed somebody to put together a little highlight reel. And it's like, oh, I can do that. And then somebody else finds out that you did that video, and then it just kind of snowballs into this thing. It's like, oh man, I really like doing this creative outlet. This is cool. And then before you know it, people are paying you $500, $1,000, $2,000. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is a legit business.
Yep.
And then a year or two down the road, you're like, I actually don't like the kind of jobs I'm getting hired for. This is not, and I'm definitely not making as much money as I want. So I want better clients and I want to make more money. That's where I think a lot of times comes from. But at the end of the day, I don't think we're asking the right question. We're not asking like what it is that we really want. And we don't really know. We just want something different. And so there's just a lot of frustration around that. So until we start asking that question, it's like, what in 2 years, 2 years from now, what kind of work do I want to be doing? Like what kind of clients do I want to have? What kind of projects, what kind of shooting and editing, and what are we delivering? What does my role look like? What does my job look like? Am I in the field all the time? Am I always shooting? Am I always editing? We don't really think past the next month, because we're just trying to shoot or edit or deliver enough stuff so that we're making it by, but we don't really think about what does the future look like. So I think that's a great place for people to start, is like, what in 2 years, where do I want to be? What do I want to be doing? What kind of stuff do I want to be working on?
When you go back in the Wayback Machine to 17 years ago, first of all, I just got to know, what was your gear kit? What was your gear kit? All right,
it was not mine. It was.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. I was going to a small church that actually had a couple of creative people on staff. And one of the guys had a Canon. Oh man, what was it?
The big XL1,
maybe there. That was at the mother church. They had the XL1, the one that we went to. I think they had a GL2. It was. So I was able to borrow that. Somebody else had a wireless mic, so I was able to borrow that. Yeah. The first big interview job that I got, it was for 25. Oh man. It was for $2,500. I'd never been paid $2,500 before. Yep. This was insane.
That is insane.
I bought a Sennheiser wireless pack. No, it was just one. But for the majority of the videos, it was two people on camera, and I had to have them sit close to each other so that they could both get picked up on the mic. So I begged, borrowed, and stealed for the first, probably the first year and a half of me like in the business. And I was just going to say, as I was getting hired for, every job, I'm like, okay, there's $200 more. I can buy one of those key light things.
Right.
Here's another 150. Now I can get, that light. And so it's just like this long process of getting, upgrading my gear and getting it to a spot where I felt a little bit more confident than.
But I remember the nights before shoots as like this, like drive all over town and pick up things from everybody. And like, it was cool. I would hang out with them for like 10 to 15 minutes, actually network. This is a funny thing. I actually encourage people to do this because like you can actually be networking. You're meeting with people. Hey, what do you shoot next week? Well, I'm free, if you need me to drop in and, and you do a lot of free work and you just kind of make yourself available. But yeah, I remember the running around town and borrowing, particularly like lights, right? Like it was always like Airflex light package was like, I don't know, it was like $2 or $3 grand. And that was just like really far out there. And it was just really tough I'm just amazed. $2,500 for like an interview. I remember getting my first $5,000 for a corporate. And I must've worked on that for about like 6 weeks. Cause I was so excited about getting that much money. Like, I was just like,
the $2,500 job, which I thought, I'm like, oh yeah, we'll shoot like maybe that's like 3 days. I think we ended up, it was like 6 days of production, full days. And then it was post-production hell. Like literally like this guy, I mean, God bless him, because he hired me and he gave me $2,500, but he was a control freak and the font and it was I compressed, rendered, exported, burnt to DVD more time. Like you couldn't even put videos online to have people review them back in the day. Like you had to like burn them to a DVD so they could review them. I think I made like $2.25 an hour when it was all said and done on that project. So $2,500 to me seemed like a lot. This guy, maybe in the back of his mind, he knew it was a lot bigger, and he's like, "Wow, I can't believe this guy's going to do it for 20."
So what would you go back 17 years ago and tell yourself, like, "Hey man," I kind of know what I would tell myself. What would you tell yourself? Hey man, this is what you want to kind of keep in mind. This is going to help you get from here to there a little faster and be in a little better shape when you get there. What would you tell yourself?
I would tell myself to ask more questions and ask better questions. So sitting down with this guy, asking
with the client,
about,
you mean with the client?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just, he was like, well, here's what I want to create. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that. And I'm like,
right.
Can I do that? I think I could do that. And, not having a script or like, hey, these are the must-have questions. Like, how soon does he need it? Like, what does the final format look like? What does the revision process look like? Or even having a revision process. I don't have a revision process. It was like, I guess I would just keep editing until the client said we're done, and that's that. Oh my gosh. Like I burned so much time working for free for clients because I didn't tell them like you only get 2 revisions. And if you want more, you can pay for them. And, today people are like, well, of course. Yeah. I mean, and yeah, it's a few $100 an hour for revisions. Yeah, sure. But like back then I would have never even thought to like bring that up or talk about what do you want?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, and when you say that for so many of your folks that come and meet with you, that really at the core, it almost sounds like you're a bit of a psychologist for them to say, you are worth this and you have this value that you're bringing to the table and a skill and a craft that they don't frankly have. And you take it for granted because you like it.
Right.
And you take it for granted because like the rest of us, you kind of slipped into it because we all did. Right. I mean, for the most part, sure. There's some people that go to like Full Sail or some school or something like that. That's true. But I would say that's definitely the minority.
Yep.
That so many of us came from like graphic design backgrounds or, just had a love of film. Or came into it from being a grip or a gaffer or something like that. I've seen a lot of that switch over, but ultimately there is this like psychological guilt that comes with doing something you actually like to do.
Yeah. Yep.
That's so weird.
It is. It's so weird. And it's so unfortunate because so many people, there would probably be so many more people in this industry doing this work because they wouldn't feel devastated, or they wouldn't feel like, yeah, this is like, I'm never going to get there. I mean, I remember for the longest time, comparison, like I was always looking at other people's stuff and like, oh man, but when I get there, then I can charge $10,000. But in the meantime, I'll charge a tenth of that. And
let's talk about that. The comparison thing, like looking at other people's websites. I used to do that too, man. I used to like just focus in and just get so like some days I'd be like, oh, we're better than all those guys. And then some days like, oh, we suck. Right. And like, and sometimes I think it was positive. I think it was positive if I was looking like so far up the line, like I'm talking about to the guys who are making Super Bowl ads. Like in that case, I think it was like helpful for me to be like, what are they bringing to the table? It lifted my creativity.
Yeah.
But when it got around my peers, it was like nickel and dime and not helping anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the same for me for a long time. And there was a period of time for a long time where I just stopped looking at other people's work. Right. And similar to you, like, I would watch like real highly produced stuff that's like, probably cost 6 and 7 figures. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's really cool. Like, how do they do that? But looking at people that are, in my area that are charging around the same, maybe even a little bit less than me. And like, some of those guys, their work, like it's better than ours and they're charging not as much as we are charging. So one of the things that I kind of believe is that people don't really hire you because of your work, because they don't, it's like you go to the store, you buy a pack of gum, you get the pack of gum right there. Like you can test it, taste it and know like, okay, this is good. But when somebody hires you to do a creative project for them, they're not going to get it right away. There's no like, so there's like this trust that they are putting in you, right? So when you're, pitching yourself or putting yourself out there, people are hiring you because of the confidence that they feel in you, with being able to do this job for them. If they don't feel confident that you can do it, they're not going to give you the job. They can look at your website and look at your work and be like, okay, yeah, it looks good. And the majority of people that aren't in the creative world don't really know the difference between a Red and a Canon GL1. Okay, maybe there is a difference there because we're at SD versus whatever 20K.
Yeah.
But creatively, like most people just can't tell the difference. Like, oh, did they use a $30 light or a $3,000 light? I don't know. It looks lit. It looks fine. It looks good. So what I would say, like, if I graded my own work, I'd be like, oh man, this is probably like a 6 out of 10. But a client, and then the people that they show it to, it's going to be a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. Like to them, it doesn't really matter. So they need to know that you can do the job. And yeah, sure, you're not going to be able to make it look like your favorite, filmmaker, but can it serve the purpose that your client needs? Probably,
Right.
And if you don't believe in yourself and what you're able to do, then people aren't going to ever pay you more than what you feel like you're worth. And at that point, you're not feeling like you're worth that much, right? Because you're comparing yourself to all these other people that charge maybe twice as much as you, maybe more than that. And for you, you're like, well, you could hire me at a fraction of the cost, and you'll get it. I'll do good, but it's going to be a fraction of like how good it would be if you really hired those guys over there.
Yeah. Jake, you're being awfully quiet there.
No,
Wait,
I'm just,
Jake's here?
I'm
Jake.
loving this. I'm inspiring me to go start up another production company. So Max, you started, or you asked Ryan what he would tell his younger self. What would you tell your younger self?
Oh man, stick to the simple shit. I mean, like, honestly, like, and by that, I mean, like, when I started because I looked around and I saw these horrible commercials on our local television stations. And I was like, I may not be the best, but I think I can make something better than that. And I love this field so much. I love doing the work. Like, it's my dream, has been since 5th grade to do this. And I have a lot of other things I could do in life. And I know this is not going to be a path to make a lot of money. I already knew that, thank God. But I just saw those ads on TV and I was so like unimpressed. And at the time, most of our work was, the internet was, fairly nascent, and there wasn't that much that we were doing for the net. So most of it was local commercials. If you started yourself up as a business, you were kind of basically going into making local commercials. And in our town of 100,000 here in Bellingham, I just said, man, I could do better than that. And I want to make something better for these small businesses. I truly wanted to make something cooler than what they were having right then. I was like, I think I can tell their story. My family was a small business family. I was like, I think I can really, like, they deserve better than that. And I can do it. And I can make it for them. And so what I would say to myself is never lose sight of that through the 15 years and growing from, the first year of a couple grand you made to making, almost 2 mil a year, like the times where I strayed and got in trouble was when I just lost sight of just saying, let's go a little further. Let's make it a little better. Let's just make it a little better for the client, and never lose track of that as you get sort of distracted with running a bigger business and like all the different strategy that, you come up with, and let's go this way, let's go that way, let's do this to increase revenue and all this kind of stuff, that I sometimes lost that thread, and like, and I think keep coming back to that simple thing that got you excited in the beginning. And it invigorated my team whenever I went back to that, to say, hey guys, gals, team, let's just try to make the best damn thing we can. And that always, I don't know, it's simple, it's stupid, but it worked. And it really helped give us a focus and a vision. But I can't agree with Ryan more that like, and I also wish I would have known what I was worth. I will say that sometimes for me, it was having someone come into the company from outside that knew what we were worth. And we talk about this in our How to Pick a Salesperson video. When you get to that size, and that sometimes that individual, because they're not you, like I've still struggled with the idea of what we're worth. And sometimes someone from the outside is the guy that can look in and be like, dude, you are worth so much more than this. And that's one of the heart of like a great biz dev. They don't always have to be a salesperson, but an EP, whatever you want to call them, but someone that sometimes it is someone from outside, just because it can be so hard to find that value in yourself. So I guess I'd say meet that guy sooner, but that's not really possible. But I'm just glad I did, because, Chris Donaldson really focused on that so well for us, and was able to because it's exactly what Ryan's saying. It's like knowing how they're going to use it and what they're going to do with it, and then saying, okay, what's it really going to do for them? And then thinking about that. And then of course, Jake, you and I have the method of saying, what do you really need? Which I also think is really critical, is like just that idea of what do you need? But,
so you both talked a lot about the early years. How did you go from there to the next level? And what is the next level? Like, is that the creative next level? Is that the financial next level? Max, can you elaborate on what you mean when you say taking it to the next level?
Well, I'd actually like Ryan to hit us up on that. I'm just kind of curious. Yeah, I know when we hit the next level, but what about you?
Well, I think this kind of comes down to definition, and the name of my podcast is Grow Your Video Business, and so people can think like, oh, that just means like charge more or hire more people. Quite frankly, like last year we had our worst year ever financially, revenue wise. Our team shrunk, and this year we are going to have our most, not our biggest revenue year. We've hit $1 million before. We're going to be just under $1 million, but this will be our most profitable year. And and this is the smallest staff that we've ever had for like the longest time. So, and that attributes, it's kind of one of the reasons why we're going to be so profitable this year. But that's like, when I think about, going to the next level for me, it's not necessarily like, getting having this massive client like Nike hire us to do a thing. Like, I actually, we've worked with big agencies and have had, a taste of like what that kind of work looks like. And I don't want that. I want to be done with work at 5 o'clock or maybe at 4 o'clock and go hang out with my family and have free time and not get a phone call from the account person at 10 p.m. that says like, oh gosh, we just looked at the cut. We need another version. And can you get on that right now? Or can you get it? Like, no, thanks. That's not the life that I'm trying to create. So next level for me is in June this year, I took 3 weeks off and my team ran the business and we got inquiries. People were talked to. We made money. I wasn't there. Nobody reached out to me. I didn't talk to anybody from my team for 3 weeks. That for me is next level. And then I come back and I'm like, all right, like, I've had so much time to think about my business, to work on my business mentally, taking notes and just, thinking I'm on a bus ride with my son's 8th grade class to Washington, D.C. And when I'm not getting like paper airplanes thrown at me, I'm thinking like, man, what is the next thing that, we want to do in the business? How can we be more efficient? Because if we're more efficient, then we're going to make more money, right? If we're charging the same amount. And then sometimes because we're so efficient, we could actually probably charge a little bit more because we're getting the stuff to our clients faster. And they're like, wow, this is way better than the other company that we worked with. So next level for me, I think it was, it's always been this mindset of like, well, what do I really want? And my ultimate goal is to be a true business owner where the business does not revolve around me. Like the company can run, they don't need me. I will bring in like sales just because I love what we do, but just more like because of the networks that I have. And the business wouldn't be dependent on those extra sales. That would just be like icing on the cake. That is my dream and goal for this business. That for me right now is next level. But I remember, 16 years ago, next level for me was like, man, if I could just get somebody that can edit for me so that I have more of my time, that was next level. And when I found somebody that could take some of that load off, that was massive. That was a massive win for me.
Yeah. And don't you think like, one of the great joys of when you've been doing it for a while is actually just working with your team members, right? Like, it's just like that very team itself and seeing them grow and get excited about what they're doing and giving them an opportunity that you may not have had. I certainly didn't like to get to work with a larger organization or anything. So that, I don't know, that can be super fulfilling as well, and just kind of speaks to that idea of like having a real business, like you say. I think our business is always going to be, I think the challenges of the video production business world are the vicissitudes of the work. It's just tough, to know, to know where you're going to be exactly financially in 3 months' time. Outside of what you're producing right now. It's always just a little tough to know that no matter what you can do. But finding things that give you some solid ground to build upon. And part of that is just honestly being around and having those and great customer service that keeps those same good old folks coming back and being a part of it. But yeah, I guess, next level for me was when we started, turning it off, being all about me. I'll totally agree with you on that. That's like, I was the director and I had my editor and I had my VFX guy but I still was the director and the writer of everything. And one day that just becomes untenable. One day that just becomes too much and you simply cannot grow anymore. And so, a lot of it was being just willing to, step back and say, you know what, I think this young guy could be a really great director. And we've worked with him now for 6 months, a year, and let's just turn him loose and let him do his thing. And it was terrifying at first to do that. My clients didn't like it. Actually, they were like, whoa, we want to work with you, Max. And I'm sitting here thinking, this guy's actually going to make you a better video than I am. Yeah. And that was really terrifying and tough. And it wasn't without its pitfalls, but it was the opening of just this door to like a whole nother level, just a whole nother level when you started saying other people can direct, other people can have a lot of creative say. It just stepping out of the director's chair and into the business owner's chair, that I'd say was like the single biggest leap that I personally made, and probably the most fulfilling one as well. And I know you talk in your I know you do you have a specific workshop about doing that? Is that right? About being able to step back and out?
Man, I got all sorts of workshops. That's probably my favorite. We do have a course called the Video Business Academy that kind of teaches, like, essentially, like, if you can break your business into the different parts and look at, like, what are the parts that run the business, like, that's a good exercise to go through, because then you can start thinking, like, well, what is my sweet spot? What thing do I love the most? What thing am I the best at? Am I the best filmmaker or editor in the world? Probably not. So what that means is that there's probably other people out there, or there's other people out there that could be trained to be maybe as good as me, maybe close enough to good as me. You know, again, my 6 out of 10 grading myself is our clients like 9 or 10 out of 10. So somebody that I'm training, maybe they're a 5 out of 10, but in our clients' eyes, they're like an 8 or a 9. And like, for our clients, like, that's all we need. We need an 8 out of 10 on this. It doesn't need to be Spielberg. It needs to be Ryanberg. I don't know. But we do have a workshop. Like, one of the things that, you know, as you think about, like, well, what am I worth and what should I charge? I want to charge more. Obviously, if we could pick our own work, choose our own clients, like, that's the dream case scenario. But a lot of it, I think, starts in the phone call, like the Zoom call where we have with the client, where they're inquiring about video. They're asking you all these different questions. They're probably talking to 2 or 3 other companies as well, as trying to figure out, like, who's the cheapest, who's like the middle price, who's the most expensive. We're probably going to go with the middle price. And if you can change that conversation, I really feel like getting off of that call with a potential client and knowing what their budget is or where they're at in the buying process is one of the most helpful things when it comes to creating a proposal or deciding, you know what, they're not ready for a proposal. So why would I waste my time? So within like 10 minutes on a call, there are these questions, kind of this format that we go through to really vet out who we're talking to, what do they need, what problems do they have, and what is their budget. And by the time we get off the call, I've got their budget, or I know if they're going to be a good fit for us or not. So I'm not wasting my time spending it with people that just aren't ready to hire us. We're kind of guiding them along. Hey, here's what you might need in the meantime as you're, trying to figure out what your budget is. Here's some resources. So we have the whole workshop that kind of takes people through the process that I've been using for years that has been super helpful. It's benefited a lot of other people. It's the workshop. If you want access to it, it's totally free. Just go to studiosherpas.com/budget. And it's like a 45 minute workshop that kind of takes you through our process. Take it, make it your own, but you really
the process of that phone call.
The process of that phone call,
vetting
right?
that client,
asking better questions,
better questions. I mean, I think that's so absolutely. I mean, it's amazing how in the early days you'd come off the call and be like, I don't really actually know what the hell we're, because you didn't have a system. You didn't have a set out group of, in our software, in our pipeline software, we actually have at the very top page, like basically what I imagined a person ought to be asking on the phone with the client. And for each project, you can just go through and just say, this, that, the other, and fill that in. And we really built that in there just exactly along those same lines to try to like get that going, share it with the team so everyone kind of stays on target. Because often the things that come out of that call, that's when the client is the most clear-minded also, before things have gotten more muddy. And they really will tell you kind of exactly what they need it for, which is often like that critical element, like what they're using it for and how it's going to be distributed and so forth. And that's amazing. And I imagine that I know that the more you are able to listen to them and give them back the fact that you did listen, that you have ideas that match up with theirs. Here's a nugget that I just always loved was I was amazed by, if I could find a video in our portfolio that we had done that pretty much matched exactly this thing that they were talking about. If I showed them that, it would help close the deal like nobody's business. Like Often I would spend more time hunting down videos in our, because we did like 700 videos. So we had this huge library, but I'd be like, I know we did one back in 2008 that was just like this. And maybe it doesn't look super cool and all that, but it's exactly what this lawyer guy is talking about. And they would see it and they'd be like, oh, well, these guys know what we're talking about. And it spoke much louder in many ways. The examples in the proposal, the examples that we would give would speak so loudly to them. And oh, they get it. They get what we're after, you know, and so that was always, and I also learned later that you could actually, that you didn't even have to produce it. You could just go find something on YouTube and say, I think this is what you're talking about, and show that to them. And you might say, well, look, we don't have the budget for the helicopters and all that, but I get where you're headed with that. And they know you can make video. They're not too worried about that. They just want to know that you get their idea.
Yeah, so that's brilliant. We use that same. If we don't have the video itself, we'll say like, no, we do know that there's this emotive, there is this one that we want to share with them, and we tell the client like, we did this one. No, we're just kidding. We don't say we did this one, but it's about hearing them, and it's about saying like the concept in this video is what we're kind of like saying. We think this is related. Is this what you're saying? And then the client at that point say like, no, that's not even close. Then you're like, oh, okay, well let's keep digging and really figure out like what it is that you actually want.
Yeah. And often those videos can be ones that your company is aspirational towards anyway. Like if it's one that you're like, that's something we want to make, we would always kind of meet up and be like, what do we want to make? And we'd see something and we'd be like, well, we want to make something like that. And then when it clicked with the client, we'd show them that, maybe sometimes even get the budget up a lot higher, because they would look at it and be like, well, that looks really, really what we want. We'd be like, well, that's cool, but that's not in the, $10,000 budget. That's like a $25,000. Well, that's okay if we can get that. And that can make things suddenly a lot more exciting.
Yep. Love that.
So that's really cool. I mean, I think it's so awesome to think about the process coming from the very first call and everything that happens on that call. I'm curious, we talk about being the biz side. We kind of want to talk about the numbers. Our software is very based on the financials. We have a really cool budgeter. And I'm just curious, what are the biggest mistakes you see folks make around the numbers? And beyond not charging enough really, but just like, what are the things that you see time and again, where when you're evaluating a new prospect or you work a lot with coaching folks, and what do you see in what they're doing financially that often is shooting themselves in the foot?
Nobody budgets enough time for pre-production.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like, you just assume like, okay, well, this is our day rate. And so if this is our day rate and we think it's going to take this much time to edit, okay, that's probably going to be that much time. And we can't add more because they said it needed to be $5,000. So we can't add anything on top of that. So I guess pre-production, we'll just find time to do it, and you do it. And you're basically working for free. If you're working for free, I've got some jobs I'd love to hire you for. So if you don't mind working for free. So pre-production, we're so many of us are at fault for just giving away that part, which that's the brains, that's the magic.
And are you talking about creative? I mean, is that what you're really saying? Is creative, or just like the
it could be. I mean, both and right. Yeah. I mean, just planning, there's a lot of creative movement in that. It's like, okay, how are we going to get that shot at that time, in that place, and with all those people, and how do we get the right, there's like so much to that, plus the creative, like, well, okay, what is the idea? What is the concept here? What we do today, we do a workshop. If somebody says they want to hire us for this, $15,000, $20,000 video, we say, okay, before we do that, you're going to hire us for a $2,500 workshop. We're going to sit with you and your team for 2 hours talking through our process for how we create great videos, and really dialing in and making sure we understand what it is that you need, and then getting alignment from your team for everybody to say after that meeting, like, yeah, those are the goals. These are the things. And maybe that, we definitely need to do a couple of interviews, and we should have Bob and Tina, they need to be in the video. And then we put together a blueprint. So we're basically getting paid to do all this
amazing
pre-production work.
That is cool.
We present this PDF to them and say, this is all that we think we heard. Here's a sample video that we did. Here's a sample video that we've seen online that we think is in line. Like, how does all of this look and sound? Clients, like 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh yeah, this is for sure. There might be a little bit of feedback, like, not that, we don't like that vibe of that song that you guys are, kind of thinking might be the inspiration for this piece, maybe something a little less upbeat. And then we make any revisions to that PDF. They look at it, they sign off on it. Then we give them the proposal in that blueprint. There's a couple of proposals like, hey, we think, here's the $25,000 version. Here's the $15,000 version. We're not doing the helicopter. We're not doing this. So which one do you want? And they look at that blueprint and they're like, let's do option 1. Let's do that 25K. We turn around, we send them a formal proposal for that 25,000. They sign it. Then we get into the planning and production.
But this workshop they're paying for, is that right?
This workshop is a $2,500 workshop. We also tell them, hey, if you don't love the workshop after we leave, we'll give you your $2,500 back. But nobody's ever asked for their money back. And 95% of the people have hired us to actually do the production, post the workshop. The 5% who haven't, they ran into budgeting issues and just other stuff on their end.
How long have you been doing this?
We started doing this workshop 4 or 5 years ago, and it changed our business.
Man, I mean, that is really cool. People, are you listening to this? You need to take this and run with it, because this does take some cojones, I will say. I mean, you must have been a little like the first time you put it out there.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Here you go. We got this idea, man. Maybe you kind of want to try this.
Well, where I got it from is a consultant that I was using, who he charges $2,500 for his consulting, and he wanted video work. And so I turned to him and I said, well, like, to build the plan, it's going to be $2,500. And he's like, sounds good. And I'm like, this is a guy who charges $2,500 for like a half day of work. So he's used to paying $2,500 for like a meeting. And I'm like, holy crap, like somebody's going to pay me. And it was a 2-hour thing. And we did the thing. He's like, this is amazing. This is the coolest thing. And he gave us this testimony. I was like, oh my gosh, not only did we get paid to just sit in a room and brainstorm and think, and then we built this blueprint, but now we've got a guy who's like promoting what we just did. So at that point I was like, okay, I've got all the confidence in the world. We can sell this thing.
Now I know why you have 4,500 downloads, man. Or 450,000 downloads, because you come up with great ideas. Like I'm just now thinking, shit, I wish I would have. I mean, we learned how to charge for creative, but I love the way you've sort of packaged it and made it really clear. And also I think by doing that, again, coming back to you have codified the value of it. You've made it very clear by the document that comes in the end, by all those aspects of saying, you have basically just thrown your stake in the ground to say, no, look, we do production, but first and foremost, we're going to get your message right and get the messaging right and help you do that as a company. Because I cannot tell you how many times we went in and that was job number 1, but we were not getting paid for it. Or if we were, it was just part of the overall job. And hence, even then, it just kind of got sort of just jammed in to the big $40,000 or $50,000 budget of the project. Yep. And then no one ever really saw it as a different entity.
Yep.
And it was only if you got the job.
Yep.
Boom. Exactly. Yeah. That's only if you got the job. And so I love this. I mean, that's incredible, but it is so imperative, that document at the end, right? The handoff, the conversation, that's got to be such a big part of it. But that is so cool. That is great, and great advice for everyone out there. So that's cool. So going back to the financial side of that. So when you do that, do you also put together? So you give them sort of 3 options of what they might do. Is that sort of how it works?
2 or 3 typically. Yeah.
No,
and we know, I mean, psychologically, our brains navigate to that middle package. But we've done like this most recent one that we just did. Guys are working on it this week. I just saw it this morning. We've got 2 options for them. And really it's like, here's the base package. And then if you want us to go to additional cities, here's what it costs for each additional city. So there wasn't really, we could have created another option, like another package option, but we're just going to let them kind of decide how big of a package we end up doing with them.
Let me ask you this. When you really want the job, there are those jobs that you just, man, I really want this one. I just want this one. I want this one. I want this one. It's going to be fun. It's going to lift the team up. I was always looking for stuff that was going to get the team jazzed. It's going to expand our craft, going to expand our audience. It's going to open up this client. Maybe it's some whole new health chain or something like that you're getting in bed with. What do you try to do to make that? Is there anything special? Is there any special sauce that you put on top to try to like really make that happen? What would it be?
Well, I mean, I think doing a personal video, we always try to get our clients on the phone to walk them through the blueprints. And then if we're just doing a proposal, no blueprint, we want to get them on the phone. If we know that we're not going to be able to do that, and even if we are, we'll try to create a little video, and essentially a video like this, where I'm, on camera, like, hey, client, you are like our ideal client. Like, here's why. This is what we love about you guys, being very specific. Love meeting with your team. Love what this project is about. Love what it will mean for our team to be a part of something like this. So just being genuine and sharing your excitement. I do not recommend out of the gate saying like, well, because we love you guys so much, we want to discount, 20%, 50%. We'll do whatever it takes to get this job. What we do instead is we tell them we would love to add some massive value to this package. So that could look different depending on the project, the client, whatever. That could mean we're going to, give you an additional edit, or we're going to shoot an additional day or additional couple days, or we're, there are so many different ways to add value depending on what your client values, what they need, as you kind of asked a lot of good questions in the discovery phase, knowing that, well, they talked about having all this stuff for social, but that really isn't the proposal that they're asking for. So if we just said, hey, we'd love to put together 3 15-second videos if you do go with this package. We just sent, the biggest wedding we used to, the majority of what we used to film was weddings for the longest time until about 10 years ago. We just sent, so now we do 1 to 2 a year. Typically they're like $25,000 or so. We just sent a proposal for a wedding that was our largest ever. I think at $31,000 or $32,000. But we're working with a coordinator, and the coordinator who reached out because we did a siblings wedding, and they said, hey, we'd love to get some behind the scenes of our coordinator team working at that wedding. And they're like, how much is that going to cost? And we told them, we said, hey, if we get this job with the sibling client here, we're going to do those edits for free. I mean, they probably would cost us $300, $200, our cost on those, but for them, they were like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. So they're going to push the client like, hey, you should really hire these guys. So figuring out how you can add value and just trying to get creative there versus like, what can we do maybe in this specific project to kind of go above and beyond? And maybe it is in that specific edit or whatever, but I think just using some of your creative brain juice on how can we add extra value to really show them that you heard them and that you really want the gig and that you value your time. So you're not going to discount. I think that's respectable. That's the way we would go about doing something like that. I dig that.
And I love the idea of making the little video. I never thought of that. That's really clever. And it's so easy to do the way we're all set up these days. I think that's super cool because what you're doing is, I love the value add, but I also just love just being really straight up with them and just saying, you represent the values that we represent. And I think that I think that means more to your client than like they literally, this is their business. This is their baby. This is what they have chosen to do with their life. And so when you really hone in on the full 360 of what their organization is all about, and you get under the hood of that, it gets them excited. And you suddenly, again, you get seen as that coveted partner as opposed to a vendor, again, which you're doing with your workshop with the client. So, well, I think we should probably wrap up, which is unfortunate because I could do this all day because this has just been one of the greatest guests of all time because we just distilled. Now you don't have to go listen to all those other 250 podcasts that Studio Sherpas has because you just heard all the good stuff. But no, I encourage you to go put that one on your list and start listening to Ryan because this is obviously some amazing stuff. And it is listening to the these kind of things, meeting these kinds of folks in our business, that so many of us don't network enough with our own folk. And that's hopefully with podcasts and everything, we're starting to change that. We either feel in competition with our peers or something, but I just have always noticed it. And we can't always get out these days. So this podcasts are just a great way. So do please studiosherpas.com. And of course, I'm sure it can be found on all the usual Apple and Spotify and so forth. But Ryan, thank you so much. And I look forward to talking to you again. And Jake, thank you for that one question that you threw out there while you sat there doing your taxes.
I think it was two. He did two.
Exactly.
I was just absorbing. I liked everything you guys were saying.
And you're on the hook for more questions next time we have Ryan. I'm telling you that right now.
Sounds good.
But also don't forget to go to videopipeline.io and give our software a whirl. I think you will like it. We take all the stuff to heart that we're talking about here. It's all coded in. So go ahead and check it out. Videopipeline.com. Videopipeline.io. You won't be sorry. All right. Thanks very much. We'll see you on the next time.